You poured it this morning, the way you always do. The orange juice, fresh squeezed yourself. The way you were taught was the right thing to do. You drank it standing at the counter before you sat down to eat. And about an hour later, you felt it, that familiar drop, that slow heaviness that rolls in before 10 o'clock. The kind that makes coffee feel mandatory and focus feel like something you have to work for, instead of something you just have. You have been drinking that juice for years. You have believed it was one of the good things, one of the choices that was working for you. And I need to tell you today, as someone who has watched this exact pattern in more patients than I can count, that juice may be one of the quietest, most consistent sources of blood sugar disruption in your morning. I am going to count down 3 specific drinks that actually support blood sugar instead of working against it, from least to most powerful. And number 1 is one that most people have been actively avoiding out of fear. A fear that is completely misplaced. We go from 3 to 1, and number 1 changes everything. Stay all the way through. Let me describe your mornings in a way I suspect will feel very familiar. There was a time, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 15, when a glass of juice in the morning was just a glass of juice. It did not produce a crash. It did not set off a chain of cravings. You drank it. You felt fine, and you got on with your day. That was then. Now, things hit differently. You drink the same juice you always drank, maybe eat the same breakfast you always ate, and somewhere between 9 and 11, the bottom falls out. The energy you had at 7 is gone. Your thoughts feel slightly slower than they should. Your eyes have a heaviness in them that is not about sleep. You slept reasonably well. You know you did. It is something else. A flatness that settles over the morning like a fog, and somewhere in there, the craving arrives. Not a gentle wish for something sweet, an insistence, a pull toward the kitchen, toward something quick, something to get you back to functional. You have probably told yourself it is just how aging works now. You have pushed through it. You have managed around it, structuring your morning to account for the drop that comes like clockwork. You have accepted it as part of the landscape of your life. But here is what I want you to understand. As someone who has sat across from hundreds of people who described exactly this sequence, that mid-morning crash is not a mystery. It is not random. It is not the price of getting older. It is a predictable, biological consequence of something specific that is happening in the first hour of your morning. And when you understand what that something is, when you can actually see the mechanism, the path forward becomes clear in a way that makes the change feel natural, rather than like a sacrifice. The nausea of 3 o'clock cravings, the headache that sits behind your eyes by late morning, the mood that dips without any reason you can name, the blood sugar readings that seem to tell a story you cannot quite decode. You are not imagining any of it, and not one of those symptoms is inevitable. You are not imagining this, and it is not your fault. Here is something I want you to hold in the back of your mind as we go through today. There is a specific reason why the very moment of switching from fruit juice to whole fruit, same sugar, same fruit, same natural content, produces measurably different blood sugar outcomes in every study that has compared them directly. The difference is not small. Long-term research from major institutions following tens of thousands of people over many years has found that regular fruit juice consumption is associated with significantly higher rates of type 2 diabetes, while whole fruit consumption is associated with lower rates. Same fruit, one form raises risk, the other lowers it. By the end of this video, you will understand the precise mechanism that explains that result. And that mechanism is also the reason the 3 drinks I am about to describe work the way they do. Understanding it will change not just what you drink, it will change how you think about every food decision you make. My name is Dr. Jane Mitchell. I have spent more than 20 years working closely with patients managing blood sugar, from early warning signs all the way through the longer-term complications of insulin resistance. And in those 2 decades, I have seen the same pattern repeat itself with a consistency that no longer surprises me, but still, genuinely, frustrates me on behalf of every person it affects. People come in doing their best. They have cut out soda years ago. They are drinking fresh juice. They have switched to what everything around them told them was the healthier choice. And their blood sugar is still unstable. Their energy is still unpredictable. Their cravings are still driving their days in a direction they did not choose, and they cannot figure out why, because nobody ever sat down and explained the mechanism clearly enough for the solution to be obvious. That is what I am doing today, not a set of restrictions. Just a clear explanation of what is happening inside your body when you drink juice in the morning, and 3 practical alternatives, each working through a different pathway, that give your body what it needs without triggering the cascade that has been disrupting your mornings for years. By the end of this video, you will have the understanding that makes good choices feel obvious rather than effortful. You will have 3 specific, accessible options you can start with tomorrow. And you will understand in your body, not just in your head, why 1 glass of a different drink in the morning can genuinely change how the rest of your day feels. Before we dive in, if you're finding this useful, take 2 seconds right now, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video, and give this a thumbs up. It genuinely helps more people like you find this content. And drop a comment below. Tell me what country you're watching from. I'd love to know where our community is tuning in from around the world. Hold on a second. Before we go any further, I've put something together for you. It's called the Glucose Paradox. It's a free guide on blood sugar and diabetes, and you can grab it for free through the link in the description. I'm telling you this now because I want you to finish this video with a concrete tool in your hands. To get it right away, just click the link in the description, head over to my site, and drop your email. You'll receive the guide in your inbox a few minutes later. But I don't want to take up any more of your time. Let's get back to the video. Before I explain the 3 drinks, I want to tell you about a woman named Norma. Norma was 66 years old, living in Savannah, Georgia, and she had been managing pre-diabetes for 3 years when she came to see me. She was not careless about her health. She had made real changes. She had cut out candy. She had stopped drinking soda years before her diagnosis. She had switched to what she described as a clean, natural diet. Lots of fresh produce, home-cooked meals, no processed foods. Every morning, without exception, Norma started her day with a large glass of freshly squeezed orange juice. She squeezed it herself. She was proud of that. It was one of the things she pointed to when she told me she was doing everything right. Her blood sugar readings in the morning were consistently higher than they should have been. Her energy followed a pattern so predictable she had started scheduling her day around it. Productive in the early morning, flagging badly by 10, needing something to get through to lunch. She assumed this was just how prediabetes worked, that the instability was the condition itself, not something she was contributing to daily. When I explained what freshly squeezed juice was doing inside her body specifically, not juice in general, not commercial juice with additives, but her carefully made, entirely natural glass of orange juice, she was quiet for a long moment. And then she said something that has stayed with me. I thought I was protecting myself. I had no idea I was doing the opposite. That phrase, "I thought I was protecting myself," describes something I see more than almost anything else in this work. Genuinely well-intentioned choices, made on the basis of genuinely incomplete information. The information gap is the problem, not the person, never the person. Hold Norma's story in mind, because I am going to come back to it when we reach the most important drink on this list. Now let us understand why juice does what it does, because this is the foundation. Without this, the 3 drinks I am about to describe are just a list to follow. With it, they make complete sense, and sense is what makes change sustainable. Think of your digestive system on a normal morning as a carefully managed traffic system. Whole food arrives. The food contains fiber, physical material that the body cannot immediately convert to glucose, that slows everything down, that acts like a series of traffic lights controlling the flow of sugar into the bloodstream. Traffic enters steadily. The highway stays clear. Your body manages it without strain. Now take that same fruit and juice it. The juicing process removes almost all of the fiber. What remains is the water content, the vitamins and the sugar, in concentrated liquid form, with nothing left to slow its absorption. When you drink that juice, the gates open all at once. Sugar enters your bloodstream rapidly, without pacing, without the natural control mechanism that fiber provides. Your blood sugar rises sharply. Your pancreas releases a large insulin response to manage it. Your blood sugar then drops, sometimes lower than it was before you drank anything. And that drop is the crash you feel at 10 in the morning. That is reactive hypoglycemia, blood sugar dropping in response to an overcorrection after a sharp spike. And the craving that follows is not a lack of willpower. It is your body accurately detecting a blood sugar low and sending the appropriate signal to eat. You are not failing to control yourself. You are responding to a biological alarm that a glass of juice triggered at 7 in the morning. That same alarm, triggered morning after morning for years, wears down the system's ability to regulate precisely. The cells that respond to insulin become less responsive over time. The pancreas has to produce more insulin to achieve the same effect. The pathway from juice to prediabetes to type 2 diabetes is not inevitable, but it is real, and it is well documented. You are not broken. The system is responding exactly as designed, but it has been receiving the wrong input every morning for years. Now you might be thinking, but I make mine fresh. I use real fruit. No additives, no preservatives, nothing processed. Isn't that different? The honest answer is no. The relevant variable is not whether the juice is commercial or homemade. The relevant variable is the fiber. Homemade juice removes fiber just as completely as commercial juice does. The vitamins are better preserved, yes, but the mechanism that causes the blood sugar spike is identical. Same rapid absorption, same insulin surge, same crash an hour later. That is the part nobody told you. And that is why Norma, doing everything with care and intention, was still getting the wrong result. So let us talk about what works instead. 3 drinks, 3 mechanisms, counting down from 3 to 1. Drink number 3, green bean water. You know that feeling after lunch when you ate something reasonable, something that should not have affected you much, and your blood sugar reading 2 hours later is higher than you expected? You checked the ingredients, the portion was moderate, and still the number is off. That kind of unpredictability, that disconnect between what you ate and how your body responded, is often not about the meal itself. It is about how insulin sensitive your cells are at that moment. And that sensitivity can be directly influenced by specific foods consumed regularly over time. That specific disconnection, food eaten responsibly, body not responding efficiently, that is not you failing, that is your cells operating without adequate support. Think of insulin sensitivity like the responsiveness of a well-maintained door lock. A properly maintained lock responds smoothly to the key every time. A neglected lock that has not been serviced in years may have the right key and still not open cleanly. It sticks, it requires more force. It is unreliable. Insulin sensitivity is the lock. When it is well maintained, insulin signals cells efficiently and blood sugar clears promptly. When it has been chronically stressed by spikes and crashes, it becomes less responsive, requiring more insulin to do the same job. Green beans belong to the legume family, a class of vegetables with a well-documented effect on insulin sensitivity. Legumes are among the foods most consistently associated in clinical research with improved glucose metabolism and reduced insulin resistance. The mechanism involves several pathways: soluble fiber that slows glucose absorption, plant proteins that moderate the digestive response, and specific compounds that appear to improve the efficiency of cellular glucose uptake. To use this, lightly steam or boil green beans until tender, blend with water to a drinkable consistency, and consume it regularly, ideally once daily, ideally in the morning or before a meal. The effect is not immediate and dramatic. It is cumulative and steady, the kind of change that reveals itself over 2 to 3 weeks of consistency rather than on the first day. The mistake that cancels the benefit entirely: adding anything sweet, honey, fruit juice, any sweetener at all. The moment you add sugar, you have turned a blood sugar supporting drink into the exact problem you are trying to solve. The purpose of this drink is precisely its absence of glucose. If the taste is difficult initially, start with a small amount, a few ounces, and build gradually. The taste becomes more neutral over time as you adjust to it. Give it 2 weeks before you decide whether it is working. That is number 3. A drink that works from the bottom up, building the cellular infrastructure that makes everything else more effective. Drink number 2, fresh radish and parsley blended. You know the reading that does not make sense. You went to sleep with a reasonable evening number, You ate nothing overnight, and you woke up with a fasting reading higher than when you went to bed. It happens enough that you have started to think of it as just how your body is now. The dawn phenomenon, the morning cortisol, some explanation that makes it sound inevitable. But for a significant number of people experiencing exactly this pattern, the liver is the piece of the puzzle that has not been addressed. Most people think of blood sugar as a diet problem. Eat less sugar, blood sugar improves. That model is incomplete in an important way. Your liver is one of the primary regulators of blood glucose in your body, not just a passive processor of what you eat, but an active manager of glucose balance throughout the day and night. Your liver stores glucose in the form of glycogen and releases it back into the bloodstream when your body needs fuel. When that system is working well, it is beautifully balanced. When the liver is stressed, overloaded, or dealing with accumulated fat, a condition called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease that affects far more people than realize it, it loses that balance. It releases too much glucose at the wrong times. It becomes less responsive to the signals that are supposed to tell it when to hold and when to release. The result is blood sugar that rises during the night without any dietary explanation. Morning readings that are consistently higher than expected. A system that seems to be generating glucose on its own schedule, regardless of what you eat. Think of a clogged fuel injector in a car engine. The car still runs, but it is not delivering fuel efficiently or cleanly. Sometimes it floods the engine. Sometimes it starves it. The driving experience is inconsistent and frustrating, and the problem is not in what fuel you are putting in, it is in the delivery mechanism itself. That clogged delivery mechanism, the liver that is not processing and releasing glucose cleanly, is what radish and parsley work on. Radishes are cruciferous vegetables, and cruciferous vegetables have well-documented effects on liver detoxification pathways. Research on cruciferous vegetable consumption has shown measurable improvements in liver enzyme levels, reductions in liver fat, and improvements in the liver's metabolic function over time. Parsley contributes through its natural anti-inflammatory compounds, its support of liver cell function, and its role in reducing oxidative stress in liver tissue. Together, blended fresh with water, they provide targeted support to the organ that is most often overlooked in blood sugar management, but that, when it is functioning poorly, can undermine everything else you are doing. Preparation. Blend fresh radish and fresh parsley with water to a drinkable consistency. Consume regularly. The same rule applies as with the green bean drink. Do not add sweeteners. And the same patience is required. Liver function does not change in 3 days. It changes over weeks of consistent, gentle support. Think of it as maintenance rather than medicine, the way you service a car regularly rather than waiting for a breakdown. Now you might be thinking, I have tried liver detox products before. What makes this different? The difference is that this is not a supplement engineered to produce a dramatic short-term effect. It is a consistent dietary input of the specific phytonutrients that liver cells actually use to do their own repair work. Your liver is one of the most regenerative organs in the body. It is designed to recover given the right conditions. This drink helps create those conditions, one day at a time. That is number 2. The drink that addresses the organ most people forget about when they think about blood sugar, and that, when supported properly, can change the pattern of those unexplained morning readings. I want to pause here at the midpoint of our countdown and bring back the question I asked you to hold. I told you there was a finding in the long-term research that showed the same fruit consumed whole versus juiced produces dramatically different health outcomes over years. Now you understand why. The fiber is the mechanism. It is the physical substance that controls the rate of glucose absorption. Without it, the sugar from fruit arrives too fast for the body to manage efficiently. With it, the same sugar arrives slowly, steadily, in a form the system can handle. But here is the question I want you to sit with before we reach number 1. If fiber is the key variable, if the presence of fiber is what makes the difference between a blood sugar spike and a controlled, gradual absorption, then what would happen if you consumed a drink that was specifically built around healthy fat and fiber simultaneously? Fat slows gastric emptying, the rate at which your stomach moves its contents into the small intestine. Fiber controls the absorption rate once it gets there. 2 separate mechanisms, both pointing in the same direction, both working in the same morning window. That is exactly what number one does. And it is the reason that in my clinical experience it produces the most immediate and consistent felt difference of the three. Before I tell you about drink number one, I want to tell you about a man named Gerald. Gerald was 70 years old, living outside of Portland, Oregon, and he had been a type 2 diabetic for 8 years. He was one of those patients who arrived already knowing a great deal. He had read widely, he had tried multiple approaches, and he had developed a healthy skepticism about health claims because he had been disappointed enough times that promises no longer moved him. When I described the 3 drinks to Gerald, his response was characteristic. The green bean drink, reasonable. He could see the mechanism. The radish and parsley drink, interesting. He was willing to try it. The avocado smoothie, immediate resistance. He had been told, repeatedly, that fat was dangerous for people with his cardiovascular history. He had been on a low-fat diet for years, specifically because he believed fat was the enemy. The idea of starting his morning with avocado felt to him like being told the solution was to do the exact thing he had been most carefully avoiding. I spent time explaining the research to Gerald, not quickly, because he deserved a real explanation, not a reassurance. And when the mechanism was clear, when he understood that the fear of dietary fat in healthy whole food forms was based on research that has been substantially revised over the past 2 decades, when he understood that healthy fat was not the enemy, but one of the most reliable tools for blood sugar stabilization available to him, he agreed to try it for 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, he came back with his blood glucose log and a look on his face that I recognized immediately. The readings were down. His mid-morning energy, which he had described as usually poor, had been, in his word, reliable for the first time in years. His wife had mentioned that he seemed less irritable in the afternoons, and Gerald himself said, "I spent 8 years afraid of the wrong thing. I spent 8 years afraid of the wrong thing." That is the phrase I want you to carry into number one. And here it is, number one, the avocado smoothie, that energy drop, the one that happens around 10 in the morning. The one I described at the very start of this video. That specific sequence of feeling okay, and then suddenly not. That drop is reactive hypoglycemia, blood sugar rising fast, insulin correcting it aggressively, blood sugar falling. The crash is real, the mechanism is real, and it is almost always triggered by the first drink of the morning. What if the first drink of the morning did the opposite? What if instead of triggering a fast glucose surge, it slowed everything down, extended the rate at which any subsequent glucose entered the bloodstream, kept the insulin response proportionate, and created a biochemical environment in which your energy had nowhere to crash to? That is what healthy fat does, and avocado is the most accessible, most nutrient-dense, most versatile source of healthy fat available to most people reading this. Think of your digestive system on an avocado morning, like a river with a dam installed downstream. Glucose from breakfast is still entering the system. The dam does not stop it, but the dam controls the flow rate. Instead of the river surging all at once and flooding the downstream territory, the water passes through at a pace the system can manage. Blood sugar rises gradually. Insulin responds proportionately. And instead of the sharp drop that follows an insulin overcorrection, blood sugar returns to baseline gently, over time, without the cliff edge that produces the mid-morning crash. The specific mechanism is called delayed gastric emptying. Fat slows the rate at which the stomach releases its contents into the small intestine. When that rate slows, everything downstream slows: the breakdown of carbohydrates, the absorption of glucose, the insulin response. The timeline of the morning extends. Instead of a 1-hour window of decent energy followed by a crash, you get 3 to 4 hours of stable, usable, predictable energy. Avocado also contains approximately 10 grams of fiber per fruit, meaningful viscous fiber that, as we discussed with juice, is exactly what controls how quickly glucose moves from the digestive tract into the bloodstream. So you are getting the fat-based gastric slowing effect and the fiber-based absorption control effect simultaneously from the same food in the same morning drink. And avocado contains potassium and magnesium in meaningful amounts. Potassium supports healthy blood pressure and proper insulin function. Magnesium, which we covered in depth in another video, is a cofactor in the cellular signaling pathway through which insulin does its job. Most people over 60 are deficient in both. A morning avocado smoothie addresses that deficiency in a form that is absorbed alongside fat, which improves the absorption of fat-soluble nutrients. The monounsaturated fat in avocado, specifically a compound called oleic acid, has been studied directly for its effects on metabolic health. Multiple clinical studies have shown that regular consumption of oleic acid reduces markers of inflammation in the body, improves the sensitivity of insulin receptors at the cellular level, and supports the kind of blood sugar stability that shows up not just in how you feel, but in fasting glucose readings, in HbA1c trends, in the long-term markers that matter most. Now you might be thinking, won't all that fat make me gain weight? This is the fear that Gerald carried for 8 years, and it is worth addressing directly. The relationship between dietary fat and body weight is far more complex than the low-fat advice of the 1980s and 1990s suggested. What the research on healthy whole food fats consistently shows is this. Fat increases satiety. It triggers the release of hormones that communicate to your brain that fuel has arrived, and the search for more can stand down. People who add healthy fat to their breakfast consistently report reduced mid-morning cravings, reduced total calorie intake through the day, and improved satisfaction after meals. Avocado does not make you reach for more food. It reduces the urgency that drives you toward food in the first place. Simple recipe: 1/2 to 1 whole avocado blended with 1 cup of water or unsweetened almond milk. You can add a small handful of leafy greens for fiber without meaningfully affecting the taste. A pinch of Ceylon cinnamon, which has its own documented blood sugar benefits through insulin receptor support. Blend until smooth. Drink it in the morning, ideally before or with breakfast rather than separately. The most common mistake: adding fruit, honey, or sweetened milk to make it taste better. All of these additions introduce fast-digesting glucose and partially cancel the stabilizing effect you are creating. If the flavor needs adjustment, a small squeeze of lemon or a very small amount of plain Greek yogurt blended in adds protein and tartness without spiking blood sugar. Keep it simple, keep it unsweetened, let the fat do its work. That is number 1. Now let us talk about what actually happens when you put these changes into practice. Because I think the realistic timeline deserves honest discussion rather than either inflated promises or discouraging understatement. In the first 3 to 5 days of replacing morning juice with any of these 3 drinks, most people notice something specific. The mid-morning crash either does not come or arrives later and less severely. This is not imagination. It is the direct effect of removing the rapid glucose surge that was triggering the crash in the first place. Your blood sugar does not spike as high. Insulin does not overcorrect as aggressively. Blood sugar does not drop as sharply. The cliff edge simply is not there. Within the first week, most people also notice that the pull toward mid-morning snacking is less urgent, not absent, but less insistent. Less like a demand, and more like a suggestion. That change, small as it sounds, is one of the clearest signals that the underlying blood sugar pattern has shifted. The craving was never about willpower. It was about blood sugar dropping to a level that triggers a genuine hunger signal. When blood sugar does not drop that far, the signal does not arrive with that urgency. Over 2 to 4 weeks of consistency, the longer-term effects begin to compound. Morning fasting readings may begin to trend lower, particularly in people who are addressing the liver support component with drink number 2. Energy through the day becomes more predictable, not just the morning, but the afternoon pattern, the pre-dinner window, the evening stability that determines how well you sleep. The body's overall glucose regulation begins to smooth out as the chronic cycle of spike-crash-spike is interrupted day after day. Over 2 to 3 months, some people see meaningful changes in their lab markers. Fasting glucose trending down, HbA1c improving. These are the structural changes that reflect a body whose blood sugar management system has had consistent, sustained support rather than consistent, sustained disruption. None of this requires perfection. It requires consistency, the kind that is achievable precisely because these are simple, accessible, inexpensive daily drinks rather than complex dietary overhauls. 1 replacement, 1 drink. repeated most mornings. The consistency is what makes the biology respond. I want to address something that comes up every time I discuss blood sugar management, because I know it is on many of your minds. Sleep, movement, stress, yes, they matter. Poor sleep reduces insulin sensitivity measurably. Even a few nights of significantly disrupted sleep can shift your body's glucose response in a direction that dietary changes alone cannot fully offset. Chronic stress elevates cortisol, and elevated cortisol raises blood sugar directly through a mechanism that operates independently of what you eat. A 10 to 15-minute walk after meals is one of the most consistently supported blood sugar interventions in the research. Muscles absorbing glucose directly, bypassing the compromised insulin signaling pathway. I am not ignoring any of that, but I am focused on drinks today for a specific reason. What you consume in the first 30 minutes of your morning sets a metabolic tone that influences every biological event that follows. The blood sugar pattern that starts at 7 o'clock with a glass of juice is still reverberating through your system at noon. The pattern that starts at 7 o'clock with an avocado smoothie is a different pattern from the first moment. Changing the morning drink is not the whole picture, but it is the highest return single intervention available in the daily routine of most people, and it is the most immediate one to feel. Start there. Let your body show you what is possible. Then add the walk. Then add the sleep improvements. Build the complete picture one piece at a time, starting with the piece that produces the fastest and most tangible personal feedback. Before we close, I want to come back to Norma, the woman from Savannah, who had been faithfully making her glass of fresh orange juice every morning for years, believing she was protecting herself, and discovering that the very habit she was proudest of was the one that most needed to change. Norma switched to an avocado smoothie for 3 weeks. She added the radish and parsley drink on 3 mornings per week. She kept everything else exactly the same. 3 weeks later, she sent me a note with her blood glucose log attached, and one line that I want you to carry with you from this video. She wrote, "The mornings are mine again." That is what blood sugar stability actually feels like from the inside. Not a dramatic transformation, not a medical miracle, just the mornings being yours again. Energy that behaves, a body that responds to what you do with it. Focus that does not evaporate by 10. A day that starts on your terms rather than on the terms of a crash you have been managing around for years. You came into this video with a glass of juice you believed was good for you, and a morning pattern that was quietly working against you. Now you understand why. Now you have 3 specific alternatives, each working through a different mechanism, each accessible, each practical, each requiring nothing more than 10 minutes of preparation and the willingness to make one consistent change. The mornings can be yours again, starting tomorrow morning with one different drink. That is the whole challenge. That is the whole beginning. And hey, if you made it all the way here, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Hit the like button to let me know this was worth your time, and leave a comment below. Tell me what country you're watching from. Seriously, I read every single one, and it means a lot to see how far this community reaches. You know what the problem is with diabetes and high blood sugar? Most people find out way too late, and by the time they do, they have no idea where to even start. That's why I decided to create a free guide. It's called The Glucose Paradox, and inside, you'll find everything you wish you'd known sooner. I'll explain how blood sugar actually works, and why your body sometimes reacts the exact opposite way you'd expect. That's why it's called a paradox. I've also included concrete habits you can start changing right now, even if you know zero about nutrition or medicine. It's free, you can download it in a second, and it might be the single most useful thing you do for your health today. Just click the link in the description to head to the site, drop your email, and get the guide sent straight to you. Don't put this off.